John Wayne's fingers stopped tapping against his knee on the seventh failed take, and that's when everyone on the Rio Bravo set knew something was about to happen, because Duke never stopped moving until he'd made a decision. Wait, because what Wayne did in the next 40 seconds would cost him his relationship with Howard Hawks for 3 full weeks, almost derail a $3 million production, and prove that sometimes the most dangerous thing a man can do is choose loyalty over profit. It was late afternoon in the Arizona summer of 1958, and John Wayne had been watching Dean Martin fall apart for 3 hours. Not openly, not obviously, but Wayne knew the signs because he'd seen them before. In other actors, in other wars, in other men who'd reached the edge of what they could pretend to be. Dean's hands shook when he picked up the prop coffee cup. His breathing was too fast. His eyes had that hollow look Wayne recognized from the Pacific, from men who'd been asked to do one thing too many and had nothing left to give. 7 takes, 7 failures, $7,000 burned. Wayne sat in his chair with his boot propped on a crate, hat tipped low, and did the math in his head. Every minute they sat here cost the studio roughly $200. 3 hours was $36,000. Hawks was furious. Wayne could see it in the set of the director's jaw, the way his arms stayed crossed, the way he hadn't moved from his chair in 40 minutes. The crew was getting nervous. Ricky Nelson had left the set an hour ago. Walter Brennan kept glancing at Wayne like he was waiting for some signal. A young grip whispered to the gaffer, "I've never seen Duke this still." The gaffer just shook his head and muttered, "That's when he's most dangerous." And Wayne was thinking about a decision he'd have to live with for the rest of his career. Here's what you need to know about Wayne's position in 1958. He was the most bankable star in Hollywood. Rio Bravo existed because he'd agreed to do it. Hawks had final say on set, but Wayne had final say on whether there was a set at all. That kind of power comes with a choice. You can use it to protect yourself, or you can use it to protect someone else. And John Wayne had watched too many good men get destroyed by directors who forgot they were working with human beings. His own father had taught him that strength meant never showing weakness, never asking for help, never admitting pain. It had taken Wayne 20 years in this business to unlearn that lie. He'd seen what happened when men kept that armor on too long. They either broke in private or became the kind of cruel they'd been taught to admire. Wayne had decided years ago which kind of man he wanted to be. Picture Wayne's decision from inside his head. On one hand, let Hawks keep pushing Dean until something breaks permanently. Get the scene done, finish on schedule, keep everyone happy. On the other hand, step in, take Dean away from the cameras, face Hawks' fury, risk the whole production schedule, and maybe, save a man's dignity and career. One choice keeps the machine running. One choice might blow it apart. One man would remember it forever. Wayne stood up. He didn't ask permission, didn't look at Hawks, didn't announce his intentions. He just rose from his chair with that deliberate slowness he used when he wanted everyone to understand that what came next wasn't a suggestion. Walked straight across the lit area and put one hand on Dean's shoulder. Dean looked up with panic in his eyes, the kind of panic that comes from thinking you're about to be fired in front of everyone you've been trying to impress. Wayne tilted his head toward the back of the set. Dean's mouth opened like he was about to protest. Wayne's grip on his shoulder tightened just slightly. "Come on," Wayne said, quiet enough that the boom mic wouldn't catch it. And then Wayne did something that made Howard Hawks stand up from his director's chair for the first time in 3 hours. He turned his back on the camera, on the crew, on the whole production, and walked Dean Martin straight off the set without explaining where they were going or when they'd be back. "Duke," Hawks' voice cut across the set, sharp as a knife. "We're burning daylight." Wayne didn't turn around. "Then light some lamps, Howard. We'll be back when we're back." The crew froze. Nobody had ever heard Wayne talk to Hawks like that. Walter Brennan leaned over to the script supervisor and whispered, "That's gonna cost him." She nodded, her pen hovering over her notes. 3 weeks minimum, she said. Hawks doesn't forget. They both knew Hawks held grudges like other men held pocket watches, close to the chest and checked frequently. Wayne guided Dean through the gap between 2 false storefronts and into the shadowed alley behind the set. The temperature dropped 10 degrees the second they were out of the sun, and Wayne could feel Dean shaking under his hand, not from cold, from shame, from the weight of failing in front of 40 professionals who'd been watching him struggle for 3 hours. Wayne let go of Dean's shoulder and leaned back against the rough wood of the false storefront. For a long moment, he didn't say anything, just let Dean breathe without 40 people watching. Let the kid look at the mountains. Let him stop performing. Notice how Wayne didn't rush to fill the silence. This wasn't about making Dean feel better. This was about giving him space to stop feeling worse. "You know what this is costing me?" Wayne said finally. Dean's head snapped up. "Duke, I'm sorry. I can get it. I just need—" "I'm not talking about the money." Wayne pulled his hat off and wiped the sweat from his forehead. "I'm talking about Hawks. He's gonna hold this against me for weeks, maybe months. We've got 6 more weeks of shooting, and he's gonna make every single day harder because I just walked off his set without permission." Dean's face went pale. "Then why?" "Because I've seen what happens when a good man gets broken in public," Wayne said. "And I decided a long time ago that I wasn't going to stand by and watch it happen if I had the power to stop it." Listen carefully to what Wayne did next, because this is where the story really begins. Wayne sat down in the dirt. The biggest star in Hollywood, wearing a costume that cost more than most people made in a month, just dropped into a crouch in the Arizona dust like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You know why I took this part?" Wayne asked. Hawks wanted someone with more range, someone who could show vulnerability, someone who wasn't just John Wayne playing John Wayne. Wayne smiled, but there wasn't much humor in it, and he was right. "I've been playing versions of the same man for 20 years, strong, silent, never shows weakness, never asks for help, never admits when something hurts." Wayne looked up at Dean. "Your character is everything I'm not allowed to be. Dude gets to fall apart, gets to need people, gets to cry and shake and admit he's scared. And Hawks cast you because he knew you could do what I can't. Show the world what a man looks like when all his armor comes off." Dean sat down too, slow and uncertain. "Red River," Wayne continued. 48. "There's a scene where I'm supposed to show defeat, show the weight of failing all those men who trusted me. And I stood there for 6 takes trying to make my face do what Hawks wanted. But I couldn't. You know why?" Dean shook his head. "Because my old man spent my whole childhood telling me that real men don't show weakness, that tears are for women and children, that if you can't handle something, you don't deserve respect." Wayne's jaw tightened. "And even though I knew he was wrong, even though I'd spent 10 years in this business learning better, I still couldn't make myself cry on camera because somewhere in my head, I could still hear him calling me soft." Wayne leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Hawks pulled me aside and said something I've never forgotten. He said, 'Duke, you're playing a man who's strong enough to show when he's hurt. Any fool can pretend nothing bothers him. It takes real courage to admit when something breaks you.'" Remember this about Hawks. He understood actors better than most directors because he'd never forgotten they were people first. That's why Wayne respected him enough to risk their friendship. "And that's when I understood," Wayne said. "Strength isn't about never breaking. It's about being honest when you do. Your character isn't weak, Dean. He's braver than mine, because he's willing to let people see what's really happening inside him." Dean's hands had stopped shaking. He was staring at Wayne like he was seeing him for the first time. "So here's what you're gonna do," Wayne said. "You're gonna go back to that set, and you're gonna stop trying to act." Hawks told me something else that day. He said, "If you can't find the emotion in yourself, borrow it from someone who matters. Think about someone you disappointed, someone you wish you'd been better for. Think about Jerry, or your ex-wife, or your kids, or anyone you carry guilt about, and let that be what you show the camera. Wayne stood up and dusted off his pants. But before we go back, I need you to understand something. When we walk onto that set, Hawks is gonna be furious with me. The crew's gonna be uncomfortable. And if this scene doesn't work, if you can't pull it off, I just burned a bridge with the best director in Hollywood for nothing. So I need you to tell me right now, can you do this? Dean stood up too. His hands were steady now. His eyes were clear. Yeah, he said. I can do this. Good. Wayne settled his hat back on his head. Because I didn't walk off Hawk's set to watch you fail. I walked off to watch you prove everyone wrong. They walked back together, and the second they stepped into view, the entire crew straightened up. Hawks was still standing, arms crossed, jaw set. Wayne met his eyes and held them. There was a conversation happening in that look, a reckoning that had nothing to do with words and everything to do with respect and boundaries and the price of loyalty. We ready now? Hawks said, voice tight. We're ready, Wayne said. Hawks stared at him for another 3 seconds. Then he nodded once and sat back down. Places, everyone. And this is the last take we're doing today, so make it count. Dean walked to his mark. The lights came up. The camera rolled. And when Dean looked down at his hands and let himself think about all the ways he'd failed the people he loved, the tears came so fast and so real that the boom operator forgot to adjust his levels and had to scramble to compensate. The cinematographer whispered to his assistant, "Get every frame of this. We're watching history." Wayne stood off to the side, arms crossed, watching. Not the camera, not the lights. Dean, making sure that his gamble, his choice to risk his relationship with Hawks, his choice to stop the production, his choice to sit in the dirt and share his own failures, had been worth it. Wait, here's what most people miss about this moment. Wayne wasn't watching to see if Dean would succeed. He was watching to make sure Dean knew he wasn't alone. That's the difference between helping someone and saving them. Hawks let the scene run for 90 seconds before he called cut. The set stayed silent for a beat. Then Walter Brennan started clapping, and the crew joined in, and Dean wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. A young assistant director turned to the prop master and said, "That's the shot. That's the one people will study 50 years from now." The prop master just nodded, unable to speak. Wayne walked over and put his hand on Dean's shoulder one more time. "That's how it's done," he said, quiet enough that only Dean could hear. Then louder to the crew, "All right, we got it. Let's wrap for the day." Hawks walked past Wayne without looking at him and disappeared into his trailer. Wayne watched him go and knew he'd just paid the first installment on a debt that would take weeks to settle. But when he glanced back at Dean, at the relief on his face, at the way he was standing straighter now, at the crew members clapping him on the back, Wayne figured the price was fair. That night, Wayne sat in his own trailer and wrote a single line in the notebook he kept for personal thoughts. "Chose a man over a schedule today. Hawks is furious. Don't regret it." 3 weeks later, Hawks finally spoke to Wayne directly again. They were setting up a shot, and Hawks called Wayne over. "That scene with Dean," Hawks said. "The one you delayed production for." "Yeah?" Wayne said, "Careful. It's the best 90 seconds in the whole picture." Hawks looked at him. "You were right to pull him off set. I was pushing too hard. Sometimes I forget. These aren't just pieces on my chessboard." Wayne nodded. "Sometimes you need someone to remind you. Don't make a habit of it," Hawks said. But there was something like respect in his eyes when he said it. Look at what Wayne was really risking that day. Not just the Hawks relationship, but his entire reputation as a professional. One wrong move, and the industry would have labeled him difficult, unreliable, someone who put personal feelings above the job. He bet everything on his judgment of Dean's character. and he won. Rio Bravo became the highest-grossing Western of 1959. Critics called Dean Martin's performance a revelation, and Wayne, when asked about working with Dean, would just say, "He's got more range than people give him credit for." Sometimes you just gotta give a man room to find it. But here's the part that stayed quiet for 40 years. The crew who watched Wayne walk off that set, who saw him choose Dean Martin over Howard Hawks, who witnessed him risk his most important professional relationship to protect another actor's dignity. They never forgot it. And in the years after, when young actors came to Hollywood scared and uncertain, the old-timers would tell them about the day John Wayne stopped a production to save a man's career, and what it meant to have that kind of courage. Dean Martin kept that scene in his private collection until he died. His daughter found a note with the reel that read, "The day Duke taught me what strength really means. Not never falling, but trusting someone enough to help you stand back up." At Wayne's funeral in 1979, Dean stood in the back and cried without hiding it, and when someone asked him later what he was thinking about, he said, "I was remembering the man who taught me it was okay to break." If you enjoyed spending this time here, I'd be grateful if you'd consider subscribing. A simple like also helps more than you'd think. If you want to hear what happened when Wayne confronted Hawks in his trailer that night, and the conversation that almost ended their friendship, tell me in the comments.